Abebi, run, 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 like Choma, run, run, run. Abebi, run, run, run. Hello everyone, welcome to the adventures of Abebi on Circle Time with Bisola, where we get to share amazing stories from all around the continent. And guess what? Today we'll be talking about a very young, innovative African who brought so much color to his community. Only here on Circle Time with Bisola. So sit back, relax, while we take you on this wonderful adventure with Abebi. Abebi and Bibi had just returned from their latest adventure where they visited Tanzania, a country in East Africa. The duo visited Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania because she had heard so much about the tallest mountain in Africa. Do you know the height of the tallest mountain in Africa? Do you know? It's an outstanding 19,341 feet above sea level. That is tall. I'm not surprised that Bibi couldn't help seeing it herself. And thankfully, Bibi is always there taking her around the globe. However, something happened since Abebi came back home. She started looking at tall people and started wondering if we could add 3,000 or 300 or 4,000, 5,000 of these men on top of each other, they probably would be as tall as Mount Kilimanjaro. And with this amazing imagination of hers, her fascination with trees grew. Every time Abebi went to the market with her mother and they passed a huge tree, Abebi would ask how old the tree was. And due to Abebi's newfound interest with trees, her mother decided to buy her a book that taught about trees. In that book, Abebi discovered the baobab, the oldest and largest trees in Africa. Abebi found out that these particular species could live for thousands of years. But something was wrong. Can you guess what it was? The more Abebi read about these trees, the sadder she became. I'm sure you are wondering what it was. Me too, I'm also curious to know. Because to me, trees are very interesting and beautiful entities, and some of them are sometimes mystical. So let's find out. For days, Mrs. Zainab caught Abebi talking to plants as she watered them, and sometimes sitting and staring sadly at them when the sun was up. It was as though she was trying to watch them grow. After days of observing Abebi, Mrs. Zainab finally decided to ask her what was wrong. They had just finished having lunch, and as Abebi stood up to clear the dishes, Mrs. Zainab told her to sit down. Abebi, my dear, what is wrong? Nothing, Mom. You know I have been watching you. You no longer even smile when you're in the garden. Or don't you like playing in there anymore? I do, Mom. I just wish I could do something important and see how important it is to other people. You see, like the big trees, they help people and they provide shade and even enough food and medicine for them. I want my own trees to grow so big so that many people will also have use of them. Aha! So that was the problem. Abebi loved seeing the trees planted by other people, but she wished they didn't have to take so long to grow. She wanted to start her own tree business. She wanted her own big trees. Let me continue reading. So you want people to find the trees you plant useful? Yes, Mom. Then just plant them. But they take so long to grow, and maybe by the time they are grown, no one would even know I planted them. Mrs. Zainab looked at her and said, I see where the problem is. You think it is only the big ones that matter, right? And you are sad. Sad because you don't think your little plants are important to anyone. Aren't the big taller ones more important? No, my dear, not really. The fact that you are helping me plant all these smaller crops here in the garden is just as important as those who planted the big ones thousands and hundreds and decades of years ago. As long as your action benefits the life of one person, then it is really, really important. You know what? Let me tell you a story of how the little action of a young boy changed an entire community. And so, Mrs. Zainab began the real-life story of the then young boy named William Kamkwamba. Once upon a time, there was a great drought in the country of Malawi. The rains had not fallen in months, and so the earth dried up. All the seeds planted by the villagers were choked up by the hard soil, and the plants that managed to grow were burnt by the merciless sun that scorched the earth. In that region, majority of the people living in the rural areas were farmers, and that was disastrous because soon they began to run out of food to eat and began to starve to death. The animals began to die as well, and people ate anything they could to keep themselves from starving. In the little village of Windmill, there in Malawi, there lived a particular boy named William Kamkwamba. William was only 13, but had since dropped out of school because his father could not afford to pay his school fees. This made William very sad, but still, he tried his best to study, to meet up with his peers who could still afford to go to school. One such way was going to the library to study. It wasn't easy at all, because he had to help his father in the farm during the day and still find time to study. What made it even harder was that it was too expensive to get electricity in the village. And so he couldn't study at night because the smoke lamp hurt his eyes badly and the fumes were bad for his health. However, William was a very inquisitive boy. He always wanted to know the science behind how certain electronics worked, and so he kept on asking lots and lots of questions. But most of the villagers were content with just using it, and so they told him they had no idea. However, one day, his father's friend came to visit them in the house on his bicycle, and William noticed the light on the tires, which went off when he stopped pedaling. William asked him what made the light turn on, and thankfully his father's friend knew what it was. He told him it was a dynamo, and the light came on if he was pedaling, and went off when he wasn't. William asked if he could observe his bicycle, and his father's friend agreed. William began to practice the idea of electricity with the bicycle, trying to wire the dynamo to power their radio, and when it finally worked, it showed William the possibility of creating electric current to power his father's house. Still starving, William tried to read up on the books in the library that focused on electricity. Even though it was difficult for him to understand the English the books were written in, something surprising happened one day. William came across a book on energy that showed how he could build a windmill that would use the sun's energy to produce water. William was intrigued. If he could make such a machine, it would be an end to starvation because they would be able to water their plants and grow their crops even during the drought. Most farmers in rural Malawi then practiced what is known as subsistence farming. What that means is that they farm and cultivated the quantity of food enough for just one's family and sold the excess off for a little profit which they could use to buy fertilizer. So just imagine how terrible the effect of the drought was on them. William knew that when they built the windmill, there would be enough water to plant and cultivate even more food. The first thing William needed to get was the equipment. This turned out to be the hardest thing to do. William did not have any money to buy the materials he needed, and the people who had the materials could not give it out for free because it was a dire period and they were all in need of money. But a very determined young boy, William, began to look for other materials he could substitute for the ones he had seen in the book, which would still make the windmill work. He began to search in junkyards where old and rusted cars had been abandoned. Look at that crazy boy. How I pity his mother, the people said. Only 3 people believed in William: his cousin, his friend, and his father. The rest thought he had gone mad. They thought, how could a mentally stable person be digging through trash all day? And anytime William tried to explain to them, the pity turned to insults. They called him crazy. How did he expect to create electricity from those scraps of rubbish? Even his old schoolmates mocked him, but still he continued. When William was done building it, his cousin and his friend helped him set up the windmill. As they began to set it up, people began to gather in his father's house, eager to see if what he said would happen would actually happen. William connected the bulb and waited for the wind to begin the motion. And guess what? It worked. William was able to power his father's house with the scraps he had picked for months. And do you also know what happened? The same people who once insulted him were now celebrating with him, and afterwards were coming to use the same electricity to charge their phones. His parents were so proud of him that even though he could not go to school, through determination, he was able to do something that even those who went to school could not do. And that is not even all. The news began to spread about the boy who harnessed the wind, because that is what he became known as. Do you know that there's a song for the boy who harnessed the wind? Before we go back to Mrs. Zainab's story, let's sing the song of the young boy who was able to harness the wind. Are you ready? Windy William, Windy William, Windy William, Windy William, known as the boy who harnessed the wind, known as the boy who harnessed the wind. Windy William, Windy William, Windy William, Windy William, known as the boy who harnessed the wind, known as the boy who harnessed the wind. With scraps, Windy William build, build, build. With junk, Windy William build, build, build. Known as the boy who harnessed the wind, known as the boy who harnessed the wind. More scrap, Windy William build, build, build. More junk, Windy William build, build, build. Known as the boy who harnessed the wind, known as the boy who harnessed the wind. Did you enjoy that little song? Yes, that is known as Windy William, the boy who harnessed the wind. Now let's quickly get back to Mrs. Zainab and the story she was telling Abebi. As the news spread, more people began to visit to see the wonderful thing he had done. The news traveled out of the continent, and William was even flown out of the country because so many people wanted to meet the boy who had built a windmill from scraps such as a bathroom pipe, nails, old bicycle, and so many objects which could be considered useless. With the fame William got, he met good and rich people who were willing to sponsor his education even to the university. All his siblings were also sent to school, and William studied more about engineering and came back to build a solar-powered water pump that supplies drinking water to his village. What that means is the pump would use the sun's energy to deliver water to them. The same sun that had killed their crops could now supply water to keep them alive. He also built an innovation center to help young, talented children get their mentorship and materials they need to make their dreams come true. Because if everyone contributed a little to their community, then Africa would indeed be a great, great place. Wow, said Abebi. Mrs. Zainab hugged Abebi and told her she was doing her part by planting, and even though it seemed small to her, it was doing a lot that she was not aware of. Mrs. Zainab told Abebi to follow her outside, and they both walked to the garden. Close your eyes, my dear Abebi, and tell me what you feel. Abebi did as she was told. She closed her eyes. The wind, Mom. I can feel the wind. Yes, very good. Now, do you know where the wind comes from? No, Mommy. Where does the wind come from? Well, my darling daughter, they come from the plants. Abebi was surprised. How? She asked. When we breathe in good air, the bad air leaves our body. The good air is known as oxygen, and the bad one is known as carbon dioxide. Too much of this carbon dioxide would harm us, so the plants breathe in those bad airs which leaves our body and turns them into good air, which is oxygen. So you see, my darling daughter, the more plants you grow, the more oxygen you provide for all of us. I didn't know that. So you see, my dear Abebi, you are also a hero. Your plants are keeping us safe. It doesn't matter that they are not big enough. They are equally as important. Thank you, Mommy. And Abebi gave her mom a very big hug. Isn't that just beautiful? I bet we all want to do something important for our family, for our friends, for our community, and our country. So no matter how little you think your contribution is, just do it. Nothing is too small. Make your people around you proud. Make your country proud. Make Africa proud. William's first windmill could only power a bulb, but now It supplies water to his village. Abebi thought her plants were too small, but they filter our air and make it safe for us to breathe. All very wonderful achievements. So whether it is planting a tree or creating an electric toy car, do whatever little you have to do to make life better for you, your loved ones, and your friends. And yes, that is all we can take on today's episode of The Adventures of Abebi. I hope you're able to learn a thing or two and to know that whatever it is that you can give is not too small. Don't wait until you're big like the big trees that have lived for over 1,000 years. You can start with just a little seed. So do something great in your community. Do something great in your family. Everyone will be proud of you, just like Mrs. Zainab is super proud of Abebi. William did an amazing job. You can also do an amazing job. Thank you so much for joining us on Circle Time with Bisola. Until I come your way next time, have a wonderful time and do make a change for your community and your country. Love you. Windy William, build, build, build. Windy William, build, build, build. Known as the boy who harnessed the wind. Known as the boy who harnessed the wind. Was that nice? Eh? The song is mad.